Then we'll join palms. And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put palms down. All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for showing up. Why show up? Why show up? Who's here for the first time? I saw 1, 2 hands in the back. What brings you here? Oh, the early birds.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, of course.
What brings you here?
What brings me here is like I'm in a religions class, and the Buddhist religions interested me the most. So I'm just here to check it out.
Yeah. You know how I got started in this? 28 years ago, I went with a friend to observe a religious studies experience. So be careful. Are you in the class? Or your friend?
No.
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So the husband, so he's the one who should be careful. You're in the class. Yeah. I tagged along with somebody else. So, yeah, be careful. Well, welcome. Glad you're here. Who else? First time here or why?
I grew up religious, but was a very comfortable adult. And the easiest way to explain it is a couple of years ago, somebody very close to me passed. And they convinced me that I was not a comfortable atheist. They're pushing me.
Understood. Yeah. Well, glad you're here. It's often very painful things that lead us here. Most people weren't cruising along happy and perfect in their day and end up at a Buddhist temple. Doesn't usually work that way, you know? So glad you're here. Yeah, thanks. What else? First time, who wants to share? Yeah.
Willingness to learn.
What do you want to learn? I just want to know what to share, that's all.
About the Buddhist religion.
About the Buddhist religion. Yeah. Glad you're here. You were here the other night, right?
Thursday?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it Diego?
Yes.
I'm terrible at names too, so the fact that I remember that, it's kind of funny. Yeah. Well, welcome back. Yeah. Who else? First time? Yeah.
I got invited by my neighbor today, and I immediately said yes. Half my family is Christian, and the other half practices Buddhism. So
Nice.
I actually am not familiar at all anything Buddhism. So I was like, yeah, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Great. Well, welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, there could be 60 people here, and if I say how many of you are Buddhist, you'll see like one. How many of you are Buddhist? There's always 1.5. See, they're joking. Here, you're like here. It's usually like 1.5 people. You know, there's one who's like, yes, I'm all in, and the half is like, I want to be, but I don't know what it means yet, but I think I'm there. And then everybody else is like, no, I'm just messed up and I'm trying to be happy, you know? And that's usually what makes places like this kind of cool, because we're all just dealing with our own madness. And whether we're Christian or Catholic or Muslim or Jewish or pagan or whatever background we come from, we've got a whole lives filled of experiences. Some of them are beautiful and some of them are incredibly painful. Some of them are happy and joyful and some of them are sad and miserable. And that's life. And that's just going to keep going. That's not going to change. So these teachings from the Buddha, if we're honest with ourselves, help us see that we play a 100% role in all of our happiness. And we play a 100% role in all of our misery. So, depends how willing you are to own that. Because if you are willing to own that, then it's really life-changing, because what it helps you understand is that your happiness and peace of mind, it's up to you. Nobody else controls that. Nobody else takes it away. Nobody else gives it to you. All the happiness and peace of mind that you are seeking and craving and desiring is already with you. So that's the beauty of it. The challenge is to figure out why we're not allowing it to shine. And that's where I think honest reflection back on ourselves, our own greed, our own anger, and our own ignorance allows us to be real with what's going on. So glad you're all here. We'll start with the meditation practice. For those of you who are joining virtually, welcome. Yeah, feel free to chime in as you are and say hello. There's a chat box over on your screen. For those who are maybe here for the first time or sitting for the first time, a couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. All right? You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice when you don't ask yourself, is it working or not working? Are you doing it right? Are you doing it wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And the practice of meditation is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. You're not trying to stop your thoughts. You're not trying to empty your mind. You're not trying to go blank. You're not trying to think nothing. You'd end up sitting there telling yourself, think nothing, think nothing, think nothing, and it's kind of a waste of time. So posture, you do want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often helps slide to the front third. Pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten. Shoulders are relaxed. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're sitting, I suggest you try to sit upright and really try to break habits and patterns of postures we typically sit in, which are really tied to our emotions and our mind. So trying to sit up straight, feet flat on the ground if possible. Hands are on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable. I will guide us as we begin. If you need to move, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator, it just means your leg hurts. Or whatever it means. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important, do not expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus, to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought? Return to breath. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgment from the practice. Just sitting. Breathing. learning to be comfortable in stillness. In quiet, wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move, most important with the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. Has nothing to do with how we sit, hold the hands across the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us, or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your day. So all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. Imagine going a day without being disturbed by someone. Imagine going an hour without being disturbed by someone. Meditation is not an escape. Buddhist practice is not an escape, as often people think it is. It is direct perception into the present moment. And the present moment is incredibly challenging, filled with chaos, difficulties, life happening differently from how you want it to happen. The problem isn't life is happening differently from how you want it to happen. The problem is you wanting it to be different. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. Sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do in every single moment. This is the practice. This is what the Buddha referred to as karma. Karma is not what goes around comes around. Karma is not getting what you deserve, or they're getting what they deserve, or they're not getting what you think they deserve. Karma literally means action. And we generate karma three ways: body, speech, and mind. Everything we think, everything we say, and everything we do has an impact. And that is all this practice is. Day in and day out. Moment after moment. For your entire life. Being aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do, and how that impacts you in your life and the life of those around you. That's it. That's hard enough. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, which is where we spend so much of our time hoping they do this, wishing they would do that, wondering why they did this, why did they do that. Once we set that down and we stop trying to control everything and everyone else. Anyone here like to try to control things or people? Four hands and a bunch of liars. Once we set that down and we work on our reaction to people around us, our life gets simpler. I just said to somebody earlier that when you look at Buddhist practice in Asian cultures, it's very different. You look at Buddhism, which is really only maybe the last 80 to 100 years, truly in the Western worlds. Very different. The heart of Buddhist teachings requires discipline, diligence, a really strong effort in everything. Yet most people in the West are raised to just have their faith and belief that something else or someone else is going to make everything magically okay. Whether it's religion or whether it was a person or whatever it might be. So then here we are at a certain stage in our life and we become interested in Buddhism or meditation or some spiritual journey. And the heart of this practice is discipline. The heart of this practice is diligence. And the crazy thing is, the lack of discipline and lack of diligence is why so many of us suffer to begin with. But this path is actually requiring you and asking you and challenging you to have discipline, to have diligence, to work hard. There's a great expression where Zen Master Dogen, who is known as the Soto Zen school, he founded that, one of the really two major Zen schools that are around today, Rinzai and Soto, and so he lived 1200 to 1253. And one of my favorite expressions of his is practice as if your hair is on fire. I don't have to worry about that too much, but for those of you who do, if your hair was on fire, you wouldn't just sit there and be like, yeah, my hair's on fire, you know? You'd be trying to put it out quickly. Yet here we are suffering every day. We're like, yeah, I'll do that Buddhist thing once a week. That should heal me. The practice is not about coming to meditation, not about another Buddhist book, not about another temple. The practice is putting these teachings into your everyday life. That's where your challenges are. With all your friends, all your family, all your loved ones, all the ones you hate, all the strangers, all the people you blame, all the ones you think have done you so wrong. That's where we bring the practice into our interaction with them. And that takes a lot of work. So, good luck. I'm going to pause there and just open up to questions. For me, I really do just prefer to respond to questions. Meditation, Buddhist practice. Again, for those of you who are joining virtually, glad you're all here. Feel free to, as you are, if you have any questions or thoughts, chat box somewhere on your screen. So we'll just open up to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice. We'll use the rest of our brief time this evening for that. In the back, go ahead, and then here. Yeah.
I'm just wondering who are the three gods or goddesses behind you?
Yeah, before we even get to that, Madeline here, do you know Madeline Ward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember that.
Madeline Ward said, I wonder if they're from my class, he.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, that's not her. It's Professor Burke.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Say hello to Professor Burke, Elizabeth Burke.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool, right on. Sorry, Madeline, I think maybe a different class. So the three big statues in the middle, right? We'll start with this side here, which is what's called a bodhisattva. Bodhi means enlightened, sattva is being, right? And so I think one way to look at a bodhisattva, their vow as bodhisattvas, and again, coming from, India 2,500 years ago, they all believed in rebirth, right? You don't have to believe in rebirth or reincarnation to practice Buddhism, but the context it was taught in, they all believed in rebirth. If you went to somebody 2,500 years ago and said, you got one life and then you're going to heaven or hell, they would have thought you were crazy. Fast forward to today, you tell people you're going to be continuously reborn and everybody's like, you're nuts. So we're just living in a different time. But at that time, when the Buddha taught, they all believed in rebirth. And the bodhisattva vow was to be reborn life after life until all beings are free from suffering. Now, for most of the people in this room, probably 98% of you who don't believe in rebirth or it doesn't make sense to you, think of it as every day or every moment we're being reborn. And in every moment and in every day, are we doing everything we can to help others suffer less? So that's what their vows are. Now, getting specifically into them, this is Samantabhadra, and they're all kind of representations of Buddhist teachings. Samantabhadra represents great diligence, great effort, and sits on the elephant with 6 tusks. The 6 tusks represent what's called the paramitas. The word paramita translates to perfection. It's not about being perfect, but these are 6 practices that are the essence of the Bodhisattva's vow, which is generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. These are the 6 practices of the Bodhisattva. So it's to be incredibly diligent with generosity, morality, and patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom, right? Now, those of you who show up here eventually, you went on a website or somebody told you about free what? You want to try free meditation. Now, if you went on our website and it said free morality class at 7 o'clock, how many would be showing up here? Right? So all of those things, generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom, they require great effort, great diligence. That's what that one represents, right? This one is Manjushri. And Manjushri is the Bodhisattva of wisdom. So, in the Buddhist teachings of the Four Noble Truths, the first one is life is suffering. Dukkha doesn't mean all of life sucks. It just means we're going to suffer a lot. Most people at this stage of their life have figured that out. Severe, extreme trauma, and also, your latte was made the wrong way. So we have varying degrees of suffering throughout our lives. And we overcome, the cause of our suffering is greed, anger, ignorance. We overcome greed with generosity, anger with compassion, ignorance with wisdom. Ultimate wisdom. The reason, and I'll touch on that in a minute, but the reason he sits on a lion, right? You ever been in a cage with a crazy wild lion? How fun does that sound? So the wisdom that is required is like taming the lion is a metaphor for the mind. That our mind is as crazy as that crazy lion in a cage. And with wisdom, I don't know if you can see from back there, but can you see the cute little baby face painted lion up here? Like little playful, let's just give it a hug, right? That's the type of wisdom that's required to tame your mind. So that's ultimate wisdom. Often people say like, okay, well, what is wisdom? The Buddha praised one of his disciples for giving a discourse on wisdom. You know what he said? Nothing. And the Buddha said, good job. So for me as a practitioner, I don't sit around thinking about like, what is ultimate wisdom? But if I said to any of you, hey, do you know when you're being really ignorant? Do you know when you're doing things that are really harmful? Do you know when you're doing things that you really shouldn't do? Most people know that. Do those things less, and you have more wisdom. Make sense? So instead of like, I remember a college kid years ago, he was like, had his dictionary out, and he was so determined to figure out like what Webster, I don't even know who Webster is, but what Webster said about wisdom, assuming that's what ultimate wisdom meant. Even if you understood a definition of ultimate wisdom, that would be really hard to do. But understanding your own ignorance, your own attachments, your own stories, that you can begin to understand. Do less of those for ultimate wisdom. And then the middle one is the Bodhisattva Kuan Yin. Different languages, you'll hear Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, Kanon, Kuan Am, right? This is, or Avalokiteshvara is Tibetan. This is the endless body of compassion. Her name means hearer of the world's cries. So she hears all the suffering in the world and pours out compassion to heal. And when we were downtown for 10 years, moved here 6 years ago, and when we were kind of completing our shrine, we had somebody that came to us and asked us what we wanted as our main shrine pieces. And we always had the emaciated Buddha, which is right behind me, as our main temple piece. But we just felt here what this city, what this temple, what this country, what this world needs more of is endless compassion. So that female embodiment of compassion is what we put for our main shrine piece. And she's often seen holding or pouring a vase, and that's considered the vase of compassion. So those are what we would call bodhisattvas. So not gods, not goddesses. Hindu, you would have gods and goddesses. Buddhism, you don't have gods and goddesses. You got a bunch of unenlightened people. Does that help? Yeah. Thanks. Eric.
So going back to being one of the 4 people admitting I
Want to be a Buddhist.
No, controlling people.
Oh, sorry.
I'm a controlling Buddhist.
Okay.
I was thinking the other day, so applying it to like a work situation. So I work in a team. Most people are remote, but I get frustrated obviously when people aren't like doing their jobs well or efficiently, which makes mine a little harder. And then more recently, I'm in kind of a managerial position for a couple of people, and the other day, like there's something I want this guy to do and like be on top of. And I've asked him like a dozen times this year. And he's like a junior engineer. And I'm just like, I want to yell at him, but I'm like, I take a pause and so in a way, managing, like, it feels like a position of like where I can not necessarily control, but like sort of like direct.
Sounds like you're suffering, and you're also suffering with your desire to defend your need and reason to control. That's what I'm hearing. And I know you'll respond to that and justify that too. The reality is they're doing what they want to do.
I guess my question is more like when you're
No, I understand your question.
in a
Completely.
position.
I understand 100% your question. You just don't like my response. I understand your question. You're in a position where you manage people, and they're not doing the job that you want them to do. Well, you got 2 choices. Do you want to fire them? Can you fire them?
I could influence it.
Okay, so then go ahead and fire them. Or say, thank you for creating an opportunity for me to practice and be patient.
Right.
Maybe they need to be managed better. Maybe your management style isn't the best. Maybe they're at some other meditation class right now, and both of them. See, the longer I know people, the more fun this gets, right? Maybe there's some other meditation class right now, the two of them together. And they're like, man, we got this manager. We're not going to say his name, but we have this manager, and he keeps telling me this stuff he wants me to do. I don't know how to do it. I'm frustrated, and I really want to perform well, but he's pushing it on me, and I don't understand it, and he's just not really a good manager. And he's there trying to deal with stress because his manager's doing a terrible job. This has nothing to do with control. This has to do with your ability to be patient and allow people to cultivate what they need to get better. It's patience. Other questions? Yeah.
What if you feel like you're being controlled
What if you feel like you're being controlled?
with people that?
Then you feel like you're being controlled.
So how, because I'm in a situation right now where I'm in a sober living,
Okay?
and I am trying to juggle 50 things at one time, and
Okay.
then I just.
So here's the thing. If everybody would just set parameters that we like, then everything will be fine. If all the people that work for us would just do things exactly how we want them to, then we would be fine.
But to expect unrealistic expectations.
Why are they unrealistic expectations? I'm pretty sure that sober living homes have difficult expectations. I've been around that world a long time. For those who didn't hear the question, living in a sober living home and a lot of expectations. Do you know that the Buddha had set 227 to 311 precepts that the monks and nuns had to follow? I bet you don't have that many. Might seem like it, judging by the smirk on your face.
Well, the smirk is just consisting of they expect me to.
I don't need the details.
Yeah.
I don't want the details.
But
Hang on, time out.
Okay.
The two of you and Eric and Jody, you two hang out after, right?
Okay.
You don't like the way things are. You didn't set the rules. You set the conditions that put you in a sober living home. If you don't like the rules, don't end up in a sober living home. This practice requires us to stop blaming everything and everyone around us for all the problems in our lives. The precepts were there. I'm not going to go into them right now, but to protect the community, to keep them safe. That's why they're there. We don't have to live in a sober living home. Maybe it's mandated by courts, but then I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm just rambling here because somebody could say, yes, I have to. The court told me to. No, you could also go to prison. You don't have to be anywhere. You don't have to manage people. We step into these worlds. We step into the life that we have. We create our lives. And then instead of learning to just embrace the fact that there's a lot of rules in place in a sober living home, we don't like them, but they're there for reasons. And it's not our place. We're not there to critique and judge. You don't like the rules? Start your own sober living home. Right? You sure you want to keep getting to know me?
Well, there's yeah.
No,
because there's more to this.
I don't want the more to the story.
Yeah.
The more to the story is irrelevant. You don't like what they've got in place. That's it. Of course, there's always more to the story. And the story has to do with you don't like the rest of it either. You're there, my friend. All the griping and moaning and complaining won't change. Deal with it. Life is harsh. First thing the Buddha said, filled with suffering. Stop complaining. Be grateful that you're sober, correct? Be grateful that you are living. And be grateful that you have a home. Sober, living home. Anytime you start to complain about the more, come back to those three things. I'm sober, I'm living, and I have a home. This is reality that we're trying to wake up to. Not the stories in our head about what's wrong with everything around us. Other questions? There's a comment here. Just want to share. Hello. I walked by the temple today and recently read Fear by Thich Nhat Hanh. I've been practicing the methods in that book, and it has changed my life. Yeah, anything by Thich Nhat Hanh is incredible. Definitely a beautiful practice and teachings to follow. So, yeah. Other questions? Yeah. Everybody's scared now. I mean, the two of you, come on. Go ahead, sorry.
So when you're in the throes of frustration with whatever it is, right? Like, what is it? Like, is there a hack to like not getting caught up?
A hack?
Yeah, like, is there some way to like stop it? Like, is there something that you can? We all have our situation, right? I have a mom that's with dementia.
Yeah.
And so every day it's like, I don't know what version of her I'm gonna get.
Yeah.
But the frustration is already implied, right? Like the minute I walk, I mean, I don't want it to be, but
But you're already frustrated.
a couple of comments,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so is there,
Yeah.
I have people watching me, you know what I mean? Like my response is gonna set the tone for all of them.
Absolutely.
And is there a
You can say hack again.
Yeah.
What's the hack?
Yeah.
In all the years, nobody said, what's the hack? So here's the thing, right? And, you know, my heart goes out to you for the situation with your mom. I watched my grandmother go through that. My mom mentally is fine, but I've been caring for her for over 3 years now, post-stroke. So I understand the challenges in a different way, but I get it. And you know, I send you my empathy and compassion and love for being there for her. And also the beauty behind your question, sorry, what's your name? Marcy. Behind Marcy's question, Jody's questions, Eric's questions, you know, you're relatively new or newer, so I'm going to be much nicer to you than them. But the reality is that there's the beauty in the questions. Let's start with that. Like, what's underneath all these questions is all of us really wanting to be happier, kinder, gentler people. Even these two, right? That's what's going on. And in that moment, like you said, for those who didn't hear, like already going into the situation with your mom, dementia, you said, right? Yeah. And you're already frustrated and you're setting the tone for everyone else in the space, family, friends, caregivers, whatever it might be. This is such an incredible opportunity to practice it, specifically in Zen Buddhism, but we talk about beginner's mind. The only reason, and bear with me here for a minute, that you're frustrated so quickly is because you are carrying the frustration from yesterday and the day before and 30 years ago and whatever else your entire life has been with your mother. And you're probably feeling zero appreciation, zero gratitude. And it's really hard to show up every day and be present with what is when you're carrying a lot of heavy weight, which is yesterday, the day before, and 30 years ago. So the beginner's mind practice, this is the hack, is to show up. And I mean this not jokingly how it sounds, but ironically enough, with dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that, depending upon what's going on, but fully present. Maybe you don't know who you are. Maybe you're rambling about something crazy. But not, again, this is tough to say because it's not always the same. But your situation is just show up as if you've never been there before. Do you see her every day? No, I don't mean to like put you on the spot.
She lives with me.
Okay, oh, she lives with you.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, beautiful. God bless you even more, you know? No, but seriously, like for taking care of her and having that occur every single day. And what Carlos said, it's the hack is to breathe. So when you wake up every day, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and say, my mother's alive. And she's here in my house. And for the first X amount of years of your life, you wouldn't have lived without her. Right? My master, she always said that on your birthday, like on your birthday, you should celebrate your mother. You have an incredible opportunity to practice patience, compassion, endless love. But yes, you don't have to do anything. What you're asking about, what I suggest is every morning you wake up, take a few moments, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and know that your mom's going to be all kinds of craziness that day. That the situation is going to be a nightmare. She may know you, she may like you, she may hate you, she may throw shit at you. But she's there. And what an incredible experience to have. Because someday, believe it or not, you might miss the craziness. The hack is to breathe and to find gratitude and appreciation. And as if that's not hard enough to do already, let me add one more thing. This goes back into the beginner's mind teaching, which is to drop the expectation. And in this case, it's actually interesting because you already know it's going to be all kinds of, all over the board. So the expectation is you have no expectations because it's going to be maddening all day on varying degrees. So it's a little bit easier to drop expectations. Just don't have any. Laugh a lot. Find humor in it. It'll help. I did that a lot over the last 3 years. My mom always said you could either laugh or cry at things. Choose laughter. So, and this is what the Buddhist practice has taught me. To have the patience and gratitude and to always come back to the breath. Yeah. Does that help? Yeah. All right, anything? Yeah, one more and then we'll close.
Just stick with beginner's mind. Would you talk to us a little bit about the sequence of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, please?
Yeah, so, and I saw a hand there as well.
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Well, it's kind of based off of like his manager question, like how, like when you actually are the employee in that type of situation, how do you kind of have compassion, love, and patience for a manager who's really toxic? Do you leave? Is that the answer?
Do you work for Eric? And in Eric's defense, he's not toxic, he's a great guy. Okay, I'm going to
My
close.
manager is toxic.
Understood. So I'm going to close with this thought, and I'm going to try to combine them two. That's why I wanted to hear your question and see if I can bring them together, right? Your last comment was your manager is toxic, okay? Your manager is toxic in your perception. Your manager probably doesn't think they're toxic. There's lots of people that probably don't think your manager is toxic. You think they're toxic. And maybe they are. I'm not defending them, right? But let me go to the triple gem for a minute and I'll come back to that. So at the beginning, we do Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. We take refuge in the triple gem. The Buddha is to recognize that we all have what's called bodhicitta, Buddha nature. We all have the ability to awaken no different than the Buddha. He was a human. He wasn't a god. He was just some dude who suffered. And at 35, he figured out why we suffer. And that's because of our own mind. It's because of our perceptions, our judgments, our critiques of everybody else that we suffer. The simple fact that we are constantly calling somebody toxic, we are carrying the pain. If we don't, in a work environment, sure, if you don't want to deal around a toxic person, you could leave. Right? I mean, the reality of it is you're not being forced to stay there. Right? I mean, that's just a practical matter. But to understand that all people have the ability to awaken and suffer less. The people who work for you, the people you work for, they're all dealing with their own suffering. They're all dealing with their own challenges, their own pain. Right? They all have the ability to awaken just like we do. But we get stuck in our dynamic and our stories about them. And we don't explore what they're suffering with, what their pain is. We just see how they impact us. Because we only see the world through our lens. And this is what the Dharma is addressing, the teachings of the Buddha, is to understand that we see reality through our own lens. Most of us didn't wake up this morning and think, I wonder if everybody else in the world has breakfast. We thought, I'm hungry, I need to eat. The Dharma teaches us that everybody else is equally as important as we are. They suffer just like we do. They have loved ones and family and friends who care about them just like we do. They have people who dislike them and have traumatized them just like we have. They're no different than we are. But we tie them to some association. And then we spend so much time stuck there. And the Sangha is the community, the people you practice with, the people that challenge you, question you, give you opportunities to learn and to be honest with yourself. Buddhist practice is not easy. It's not here to like hug you and make you feel better. That's what a lot of unhealthy stuff does. Buddhist practice is a mirror. And it's reflecting back on that mirror that says, what is my role in this? What is my responsibility in this? What is my ability in this? How can I remove myself from this situation to be safe if I need to be safe? It doesn't point fingers. It asks ourselves, hey, we're responsible for our own choices. And I like to look at Sangha as, traffic jams, that's your Sangha. Grocery store lines, that's your Sangha, that's your community. Everywhere you are is your community. I'm going to stop there. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to Martin Green during his time of rebirth and to his family and friends who suffer at this time. May they all be at peace. May we all be at peace and free from suffering. So a few quick announcements before you head out. John, you want to come up? Dharma Bum host. Thanks all for the beautiful questions. Sorry, went a little longer than normal, but really great.
Hello, everyone. I'm tonight's host, John.
Hi, John.
We opened Dharma Bum Temple 17 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone battling addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 5 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We also have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and bring it back whenever you are done with it. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If you people could stay to close and latch to the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you all again.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you all.
It sucks, but.
You got the next question?